G'day mate and welcome to Factorio. Welcome back to Factorio with me, Jetty. Today I want to talk about SubX Redux. So, back in March, my channel hit 5,000 subscribers and I decided I want to do something special. I want to do something special to celebrate you, the subscriber, you that have got us where we are today and continue to keep expanding the channel. This is the series that I started. So, as I said, back in March, we started a brand new series. It was called Rocket Rush, and the idea was to get a rocket off the ground as quickly as possible. So, all the way back here, it started here, and we had our very first mini base back in episode 1. Surprisingly, this does 200 iron per minute. Never would have thought it, but this was our very first episode. And then just 2 weeks later, we happen to have a slightly larger base up and running. We have a full bus. We have like our green circuits, our workshop. You might be familiar with a lot of these blueprints already. They were finalized, I guess, in this series. We have engines, we have red circuits, we have all the goodies, but more importantly, we have our singular rocket silo, which has launched just one rocket so far, which was a good start. It was only 2 weeks in, I'd launched one rocket. Now, you might be saying, like, I've seen many of these sort of celebrating the subscriber series, people launch off a rocket per subscriber, you've got 5,000, that's not going to take too long, and you'd be 100% right, because 2 series before this, that's exactly what I did. I built a Megabase that did 15 rockets per minute. And if you take 5,000 subscribers and divide it by 15, it wasn't a very impressive number of episodes. So I decided I want to do something a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging. And that led us to our slightly improved base again 2 weeks later, where we'd added a lot more smelting to the base. In fact, let's actually get a map view because it's got a little bit big to fit on one screen. We had much improved smelting. A lot of these actually outputting a full blue belt of a lot of materials. We had a full oil setup. We had a secondary base making modules. We had biters popping in and saying hello to the walls. We had the mother of all god of red circuit builds because I needed more red circuits, obviously. We had our poor little rocket silo over here, which we'll go say hello to again. I'd also finally managed to get some power armor with some decent legs so I can move around the base a little bit quicker. Our poor little rocket silo here, which is now up to products finished 5. It's now done 5 launches. It's not exactly fast still, but it is getting there. And you might notice we have this new space progress summary up here, which indicates that we'd actually swapped over to a very modified playthrough. What we're actually doing in this one is we were launching off not just a rocket, but a spaceship for every subscriber. So rather than just launching, a rocket and calling it done, we had to actually launch up into space 7 satellites, so we knew exactly where in the galaxy we were. Then we had to build a dry dock in space, so we could actually build a spaceship. And then we had to actually put together a spaceship for every single subscriber. But after 4 weeks, this finished our Rocket Rush series. After Rocket Rush was done, we actually swapped across to our SubX series. And here we are again, 2 more weeks into our Rocket Rush series, and we now have, if we open up SpaceX, we have our full satellites, all our dry dock components, and we've started making our very first spaceship. Now, if we just go to map view really quickly, we can see the base is substantially grown again with another small off-site production. This is literally just making, where are they? Productivity module 6s. So what we actually did with this series is we'd added one more mod to the list. We'd added Factorio Extended, which took our tier 1 through to 3 items and added a tier 4 and a tier 5. So if we jump over here really quickly, we can see we have 2 more increases in belts, being our green belt and our purple belt, moving what's that one move? 60 and 75 items respectively. We also had assemblers, 2 more assemblers, being the Assembly Machine Mark IV and the Assembly Machine Mark V, along with 2 more levels of furnaces, 2 more levels of centrifuges, refineries, chemical plants. Basically just added 2 more tiers onto all of normal Factorio. It did also add 3 tiers of productivity modules and speed modules, which were going to become fundamentally important in this series because we were going big. Mainly because of the SpaceX components, which turns out are particularly expensive. So if we actually just look over at what a rocket costs to launch, we have a full progress list here. So we needed a protection field, which is this item here, which only needs 100 energy shield Mark IIs. If you're new to Factorio, These are the shields that you put in your power armor, where generally you're going to craft maybe 5 in the game, and I was launching 100 of these for every single subscriber. The fusion reactors, same story, except it's 100 portable fusion reactors. Again, you'd probably put 2 of these in your armor, maybe 3 tops. So again, super expensive items. Habitation is that one, which is only 100 processing units and 100 low density structures with 500 plastic. That one I actually call pretty cheap. Life support, not so much. We have the processing units, low density structures, the pipe, but we also have productivity modules, 50 productivity modules, which this is when SpaceX started getting really expensive, when it started using the productivity modules, because each one of those has a significant amount of crafting time with a significant amount of cost. Hopefully editor JD can put a nice little tally up the top right hand corner. But yeah, we started off with 50 productivity modules for life support. Then we went over to astrometrics, which is this one, which is again reasonably cheap if you exclude the 50 speed modules, so we're up to definitely 100 modules and counting. Then we went over to the command module, which now includes another 150 modules, so that's 250 for those keeping count at home. Finally went over to fuel cells. Fuel cells are great. They're cheap, like 500 rocket fuel each. You need 2 of them. That's 1,000 rocket fuel. I guess you need 1,000 rocket fuel per rocket, and each one of these has to be launched into space in its own rocket. So for those keeping count at home, that is actually 23 rockets per subscriber, each loaded with some very expensive components. We jump onto the thrusters next. We need 4 of these, which is another 200 speed modules, which is what, 450? 450, am I right so far, editor JD? I'm hoping I am. So yeah, 450 modules total. And then we need the hull components. Hull components were dirt cheap. They were actually super cheap. Just 2,500 low density structures, because we need 10 of these in 10 separate rockets. Yeah, we can see where the cost starts to add up. Finally, we need a fast and light drive, which I'm actually still researching at this point, which is all the way down here, which is another 1,500 modules. So I'm pretty sure that's 1,950 modules, roughly per subscriber. If anybody's built a significant base, if anybody's gone down the module and beacon path, you know trying to find 500 modules in a good day is nearly impossible. Launching 1,950 of them into space for the fun of it is a whole different story. So this is when we really got into the meat of this series. This series was going to be a lot of production, a lot of building a megabase, a lot of building a megabase to build a megabase to build a megabase, because we were going to need some very expensive parts. Which brings us all the way up to episode 30. So at this point, because there's only 6 episodes in the week, because every single week I did a recap episode, we're, what, 5 weeks in? We're 5 weeks in. We're 5 weeks in this series, and I've launched my very first subscriber. Now, you might notice that it keeps a log of who the subscribers are, well, which launches which, and at the same time, it also puts in their name. So this was one of the things that I was really proud about this series. This series actually tracks who has been launched, what their name is, pulls it out of the YouTube API, and puts it straight in a Factorio for us. So we can see Katja was the very first launch of many. If you remember our base from last image, it's still down here, but we've started moving things off-site and started making more items off-site. I'm actually standing up here at the fast and light drives themselves, and this whole build here with many lanes of green circuits makes one fast and light drive every 2, 3, 4 minutes. Yeah, this was a substantial build, and like I said, we're 5 weeks in already at this point. From there, we just went down the rabbit hole even further. Even though we'd already got 350 rockets up and running, there was more to do. So the base kept accelerating, and we kept launching, we kept pushing forward, and here we are 3 weeks later. Took 5 weeks to get the first rocket up. 3 weeks later, we're now up to the first spaceship up and launched. We've now got 40 spaceships up and launched. And as you can see, we're automatically tracking the names and names of every single subscriber that has been launched. At the same time, we're up to 1,700 rockets launched. And the number keeps going. As you can see, I'm now down here in an entirely different outpost, because we added this outpost and this outpost in the last, well, couple of weeks, along with a whole pile of nuclear power to keep the lights on. And I am stamping down a nuclear power plant pretty much every episode just to make sure it can keep up with demand. So we've moved our low density structures off-site. We're loading these in a train. We've moved our rocket control units, again, off-site. They're loaded in a train. And I'm actually standing down here at a brand new module build that we just started getting up and running. So this was, as I said, this is episode 40-ish, 48, I think. So we're, 7-8 weeks in. So here we are. We're now up to episode 105. So we're 17 weeks into this series. And the reason I'm telling you this is, actually, we'll get to that in 1 second. So we can now see we're up to 1,400 people have been launched. And as you can see, we're still tracking every single launch. There are a couple of blue names in there. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, there's been some substantial progress in just a couple of weeks. At the same time, we're up to 34,000 rockets launched. As I said, if I was doing this, just launching a single rocket per subscriber, we would have been done and dusted a long time ago. But we kept building. We kept building more rockets, more silos, more outposts. I'm standing at a whole new outpost this time. We added this little outpost here, which did our Speed 6 modules with, remember that little outpost there? It got doubled, and then again, at the same time, all our nuclear has been ripped up, and we've replaced it with just a few solar panels. These are, again, modified solar panels, so these are, 4 times powerful, 16 times powerful. I think these are about 48 times as powerful as a normal solar panel. Yeah, substantial improvements. But as you can see, the series did continue. The series did keep going. This is well past the biggest mega base I've ever built. Which just brings us to this point. Full loop all the way back to the start of our bus again, where you can see the base looks nothing like it was originally, and we are now decorated with many rocket silos that launch 23 rockets per minute, which is actually where the series ended. The series ended here just before 1.0 came out, because the series was actually started, as I said, back in March, and was on schedule roughly to finish before 1.0, or Factorio 1.0 was released. The catch was, Factorio 1.0 got moved forward 3 months. When it got moved forward, unfortunately, I couldn't cut 3 months out of the series because I wanted to launch every single subscriber into space. In saying that, the channel has just hit 7,000 subscribers. So I figured we've got enough of our guide to Factorio up and running. We've got enough of the new players explain at least to mostly what's going on when it comes to a megabase and something like that. So hopefully we're at the point where we can restart this series, which is why I'm telling you everything I've told you so far. This is going to be our SpaceX Redux. We're going to continue right where we left off, back at right where we left off. We are starting under a new banner because it is going to be called SpaceX Redux. It is going to start with episode number 1 counter, but we're going to start with already 2,000 rockets, 2,000 spaceships, not rockets, spaceships in the air. We're approaching 50,000 rockets launched, but we're going to start with 2,000 spaceships in the air, which means I'm back to my original goal of I just need to launch 5,000 spaceships, which is where this series all started. So with that, I invite you guys to watch this new series. I do invite you guys, if you ever want to learn how to megabase on a grand scale, continue watching. At the same time, at the end of this video, there is going to be a whole playlist of every single recap episode, because this series is a little bit different. When these series were running, we did 6 episodes, and then on the 7th day, we did a recap. Just in case you missed something, just in case you want a short recap, we did it as a recap episode. So there is going to be every single recap episode in the playlist back to back before we start the series off. And then this series is going to be running, I don't know how often. It's no longer going to be daily because we're already doing the definitive guide every day. Plus, we've got a couple of episodes every week with Pooba. Plus, there's a whole bunch of speedruns we've been doing over on Twitch that are going to pop up on the channel every now and then. So I'm going to call this series 3 days a week, roughly, maybe. I don't know. But we do have a lot of spaceships to launch. So I do invite you to hang around and continue watching the series. I do also need to mention, very, very quickly, that we do have a second set of silos because Jetty bites off way more than he can chew. We have a second set of silos, and these are reserved for our supporters, the supporters of the channel, because as you might have noticed on this channel, there aren't a lot of ads. I don't like ads. I can imagine you probably don't like ads, probably why you have an ad blocker installed, probably why you don't know there's not a lot of ads on this channel. Reason there's not a lot of ads is, as I said, I don't like ad blocker. So this channel is almost completely supported by the community. Okay, I have my Patreon members who I love and adore and do get early access to videos over on Discord. I have my Twitch subscribers. Again, I love and adore them. They also get early access to new videos over on Discord. Finally, we have our YouTube members, which I love and adore the most because they are on YouTube. It is the home that I have come to love and hate algorithms at the same time. But yes, they also get early access to all videos when they go up on Discord. Early access ranges from a few hours to a whole week at the stage because editor JD and myself might be a little bit behind in recording and editing. I'm entirely sure it's editor JD's fault. Yep, I'm going to blame editor JD entirely because he's not here to defend himself. At least I hope he's not. Anyway, with all that said, this is where I'm ending this episode. Thank you to my supporters. Thank you to those who continue watching. Thank you mostly to those who continue to subscribe and help out this channel everywhere they can. With all that said, I invite you to keep watching the playlist. I invite you to sit back, grab some popcorn, go through the recaps, catch up as fast as you can, and continue watching this series because I have at least 5,000 spaceships I need to launch. Alright, with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you're going to enjoy this series, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.